pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming to our May 1st regular meeting. If anybody doesn't have, we do have agendas up on the top corner over there. And to start off tonight's meeting, I'd just like to make it short now. We are investigating a audio system. Donna's going to really talk up tonight, so we apologize, but we're getting actually a donation of this, so we're just trying to work with this gentleman at the end of the day. So there is one coming, so please hang in there. I appreciate it. All right, so to start, we have that. Any public comment initially? Anybody have anything they want to ask, talk about, anything related to the agenda or otherwise at the moment? Okay. So with that, we'll just move into Gene Galley to give, hey, Siobhan, how are you? To do a presentation in regards to Sewell Park. We have been reaching out, I've talked to Senator Skoufis and Assembly Moore in regards to potential grant monies. There are some other grant monies that were out there previously, uncompleted type grants. So we're trying to see if we can resurrect some of this, some of those grants and possibly use those monies for the Sewell Park. And in doing so, I was talking to Jean the other day. She approached me regarding Sewell Park and a project that they've been working on. And so I invited her in to kind of give an idea. I think at the last meeting we also talked about what we were trying to envision this park to be. Jean has some, I think, some other interesting thoughts, and she wanted to present it. I asked her to come in, and so we're here now for the presentation, and there'll be some questions, answers after that, I think. Anybody has? So Jean, it's all yours.
So I'm just going to stand up for a moment. My name is Jean Galley, and I'm with the Blooming Grove Conservation Advisory Commission. And a presentation that was done to our group about 2 months ago is what prompted this whole idea. And it's all about butterflies and hummingbirds and bumblebees and things that have been sadly missing from our environment, not just here but everywhere. And that's how this idea got birthed. And at the same time, we had a high school student that was at this meeting, and he lit up. So that's a good thing. And I also want to introduce who's going to be my pollinator partner in crime, Siobhan.
So hi, my name is Siobhan. I'm with Florence in Washingtonville. Levon Inspirations right on 60 East Main Street. And this is a fantastic project. My daughter is my manager. She is a graduate of a horticultural school, so in combination with my 15 years experience as a florist and her horticultural certifications, we plan on lending a hand however way we can.
So let me just take you through a brief explanation of where this is coming from and what we envision it as. So just briefly, just to honor the woman that the park has been dedicated to, Naomi Sewell Richardson. She was the first African American actually to graduate from Washingtonville High School. She grew up in the area, but she spent a lot of time out of the area with her career, and then she came back to New York. And ultimately, she died at the age of 100 and is buried here in Washingtonville. As many of you know, there were a couple of houses that were on this land, and I think it was during Hurricane Sandy that they got flooded and we lost them. And so that was what, at some point later on, the village determined it would make an excellent parkland. There was a survey that was done around 2017. There's a copy of it on the table there if you want to take a look at it. In total, it's about an acre of land, just under an acre of land. There are some trees that are indicated on this plan that are no longer there. A couple were taken down last year. But aside from that, after doing a walkthrough, we'll be able to determine what remains. But the actual size of it is the same. So ultimately, the idea of bringing this park to happen is to involve the students in the school, both the high school and the middle school, which conveniently happen to be across the street from the land, the businesses, and the entire community. Because I think it's the kind of thing, it's the heart of the community. It's like what the Moffat Library is to the village. This park could be the same. And the idea here is sustainability. Ultimately, it's a place where the community can gather for music and to enjoy nature. And when I spoke to Mayor Domingo last week, we talked about, he mentioned the idea of there being a bandstand, someplace where music can be played, people can hang out, they can listen, they can enjoy. But around that, within that, we see this being a pollinator pathway, gardens that have a pollinating type plant life that will attract bees, that will attract hummingbirds, that will attract butterflies, monarch butterflies. When's the last time you saw a monarch butterfly? And the other, going back to the sustainability idea, also too, the idea of solar panels, using solar for lights. Really, like, let's just get into the 21st century. This is a great opportunity, which is why looking forward to having the students get involved in this is top of mind. And on that note, before I forget, I've already reached out to the high school, to the student advisors, Virginia Scott and Elizabeth Frey, and they are so excited. And like I said, we have a student that is with us, the CAC. He lit up at our last meeting. He said he's already spoken to a number of students who are also interested. So getting their input, having them envision it, making this an activity that they can get involved with, I think is just all better. So specifically this whole idea of pollinator pathway and why that, because it can get beyond the park. We've already got beautiful pots of flowers throughout the village, which is actually how I met you, Siobhan. We have garden beds in front of the library, in front of the schools. And if along the way, throughout the village, these pollinator plants are planted, these gardens are planted, then we have this whole circle, this expanse of pollinators, of insects, and then returning, of the birds and the bugs returning. Native plants are best for all the obvious reasons. They've adapted to the environment. They require less water, no fertilizers and pesticides. The whole idea of this park is low maintenance. We don't want to have to be expending any revenue on it aside from just creating it. The idea is to have flowers, blooms that start in the spring, that last to the fall, that have a water feature. Now we have the Luna Creek right next door. That probably counts, but they've talked about fountains or ponds. But I think for us, we've got the creek, we've got her already there. And then in the wintertime, when the droppings from the trees and from the plants, they provide shelter in the winter for the bugs and whatnot hibernating. And again, completely organic. And when you take this route, you prevent soil erosion, water runoff, decrease pollution. Now with all the rain that we've had, I took some photos, and there is some pooling of water there. But once you start using the ground in a way that's productive like this, where there's roots soaking up that water, the soil erosion and the water runoff, that'll be history. Again, low maintenance, and it all comes back to the environment and to all of us. And the notion, as I was saying earlier, is how you extend it out into the community beyond the park. Even the strip of land between the sidewalk and the road, and the pots that we already have, and the gardens that are already established in the various buildings, even your own backyard or front yard. So the whole pollinator pathway can take root throughout the community. And then just one last thought, there was a dedication made, I guess this was back 2017 or so, with the family. Unfortunately, one of the family members, she passed away in 2020. I believe her name was Deborah, but she also taught at the high school. So some more history there with the involvement with the school and with the kids.
Yeah, that picture is her sorority.
That's her sorority, that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, when they started, Kate actually sent out a
Yeah,
email, and that
right.
was really neat to see that she was one of the founding individuals to create the
Right.
sorority. And
Right.
now this thing is like, forget about nationwide, I think it's worldwide.
Yeah,
International.
It's international, so, yeah,
yeah,
if you look it
Naomi,
up on the website, it's incredible to
Yeah.
see.
yeah,
And to see the 7 or 8 of them standing on the steps of their college, concrete steps into a building, and they're standing there with that sign back then in the 1920s.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
incredible.
Southwick University,
Yeah,
yeah,
really
yeah,
neat.
very cool.
Yeah.
And then ultimately, we could have gardens that look as lush as this, as pretty as this, and so that's the goal. So it's encouraging to hear that there are some monies out there. There certainly is a lot of excitement. Students are excited, members of the community are excited. I know Siobhan, we'll get people involved, and you know what? We need something beautiful and positive happening around us. And I think this is a nice way to do that.
And it's nice too, because in getting the students involved, the science, in getting the students involved, we're not just talking volunteering the students, we're talking educational purposes. This can be part of the curriculum. We know that the science teachers, they actually have this as part of their curriculum, but a hands-on approach it lasts longer and something that these students can take with them throughout their whole future. So it has a really good benefit.
And just one other last thing, while you're talking about science, I mean, having an architect, a landscape architect also, having professional eyes on it. The ideas are coming from the kids and from the community, but we do have access to professionals, so that we're more than willing to help us out. And all we need is a bandstand, some lights, and some plants, and some people who like to dig dirt.
Good to go.
So thank you very much. If anybody has any questions, we're happy to take them.
You have a question in the back?
Yes.
My name is Jolie Zara, and I'm actually at 71 West Main Street. I'm the red house across the street from the high school. And my daughter is actually presenting at Taft Science Fair on Wednesday. We have a lot of water collection things that we do. Water retention, as well as, if you wanted something like that, we'd be happy to help volunteer, get those items to set something up for water collection. And then to set up, the little swales and such, that it would automatically feed into the gardens.
Right.
Also, I have a source for free organic soil. So definitely, somehow the mayor can put you in touch with me, or I can be in touch with you, so.
Yeah, I will get your email information before, I have to go to another meeting, but I'll get your information. And ultimately, when I meet with the school and start getting people together, we'll create a group. And we'll have a meeting, and what everybody's strengths are. The whole idea is for everybody to bring their individual
Sure.
expertise, strengths, and whatever they can bring to the party.
Well, one of the things that I was just gonna mention as well, maybe suggest is some kind of arts. Whether it's on the rock walls or rock gardens or some kind of natural thing, for the beds, having kids get involved in doing art as well. So not only do you have, seasonal flower colors,
Right.
but off-season also artistic, mosaics or, just really cool things like that.
I think that's a great idea. The idea of bringing art to it, that's awesome. Thank you. I'm sorry, your name again?
Oh, Jolie
Jolie,
Sarah.
okay, great, thank you. Yes.
Hi, Selena Roper.
Hi.
When I had received an email from someone from the sorority with the comprehensive plan, and I'll forward it to whoever, that they'd like to be involved, so I'll send you their contact
Oh,
information.
wonderful, thank you.
That's
Thank
great.
you.
Selena, if you know of anybody who was involved in receiving some of the donations that came from the sorority, we're trying to find out who it came from and how much it was.
Okay.
To thank them, number one, and again, to see.
They've already sent donations?
That's what I understand, so, yeah, I would like to try to work it backwards, but we're having a little problem finding that person. When I went online this weekend, realizing how big that sorority was, it's a 202 Washington DC phone number, so I guess I'm gonna go to a main hub and then ask them for something at the college that she went at, to try to find out who it is.
I can get that name from Margaret,
Okay,
because she's the one that told us about that. And her Naomi's grandnephew has been emailing us that they'd like to come when it's done, like for a celebration or what,
Yeah.
new dedication,
Yeah,
rededication.
yeah,
Yeah.
great.
I have a question for the village. Does anybody know what happened to the trees that were cut from that park, from the actual wood? There were some pretty massive trees that, was it taken
Yeah.
somewhere? Can they
I
be
believe
cut?
there were a total of 5 trees taken out. including the stumps. We were told that the trees were either dying or dead. I don't know. But it's the same, I mean, if they're dead, I get it, but, you know, removing a tree from a park just seems like a,
Well, I just meant the actual wood, you know, they
the
took
wood
it down.
itself, I have no idea where the
Was
wood
it
went.
sold, was it given away, was it placed somewhere? Because that might be able to be chopped up and used for, you know, either the sawdust or paths.
Benches.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A lot of natural source there.
that's a great idea.
Yeah, I don't know where that wood
I have
went.
plenty of votes for the project.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Okay. All right, so Jean, next step is still working with the school and,
Yeah, once I have my meeting with the school next week, sometime next week, I'll have more input, and, my objective then is, let's have a meeting. Let's
Right.
get, as many people together as we can. I'll see how they wanna work with the students, you know, if it's during their after-school club activity, to meet
Right.
with them. You know, unfortunately, we're coming to the end of the school year,
right,
but, let's see if we can get some of that momentum and keep some of those students to join us throughout the summer.
and then part of the design of it is still part of working with the school on that piece?
Like to, ultimately, yeah, I think having that kind of ownership would be nice.
Right,
You know, for them to have that kind of input,
yeah.
so.
Julie?
I was just gonna ask Jean if you have a contact at the school,
Yeah,
maybe find out if there's a VOTEC student in landscaping at
Good idea.
BOCES.
good
Maybe
idea.
they can get involved. And I was also gonna just throw out real quick, you know, when it, you're obviously working through things now, but maybe have a fundraising component to it for anything additional. I know we have a lot of small businesses in the village that might want to support a garden or some plants or something like that. And maybe we can just, you know, do a flyer or something, you know, and advertise it, or whatever is the
Yeah.
concept.
That will definitely be part of the overall plan, is to get the local businesses involved, without a doubt, because it'll benefit them.
Yeah, as far as like the flowers, the timing is gonna be tricky because you're gonna want flowers soon. And, you know, on and off as I watch the reels going by on my computer, I mean, you take a rose and put it upside down in a pot and you've got a whole new rose bush. So, propagation might be a really nice starter project.
That's a good idea.
So that's where I come into play because I do have access of different stages of plants for our zoning. So whenever this project is ready to go, the goal would be initially to start with the plants that are in line with our season currently. And then, because this is an ongoing thing, of course, we want to see everything just lush from the start, but this is supposed to be an ongoing project for the students, for the community. So we'll start as lush as we possibly can that makes sense for us, you know, whenever it's a go. And then we'll continue to add on, and that will also give something for the students. Maybe they can start propagating or seeding, you know, as part of the curriculum, because that is part of their curriculum earlier in the season, or earlier in the school year. And then when it's time to plant, their seedlings they've watched grow, and then we can transplant them. So that, it's all a timing issue, but, you know, we want to have success and be patient with all of that. So that should be something that we maybe would just keep, you know, we'll have something that everybody will be informed as to the why it's not full, or the reason why it is the way it is. But it would be nice.
It just so happens I had bought, you know, Tractor Supply has these practically a bundle of sticks this big with a tiny bit of green on them, and I have a nice exposure window. And it went from sticks like this to this home that has 9 gorgeous roses on it. And now they put those roses way in the back of the store for $5 each.
That's
I
nice.
would too.
It happens fast.
Well, one thing I will say, the school, when I reached out to them, they've been talking about this park forever. So I guess they've been kind of hoping that somehow this could all happen, you know, I'm good at organizing. I black thumbs, I'm not good at numbers, but everybody else is good at it, so. That's great. Tell everybody you know, we're gonna get the park done.
Thank you, appreciate it, thank you very much. And Siobhan, the planters are coming along really nice, they look great, thank you.
Thank you.
And I know there's more flowers to come.
Yes.
Kate?
Hi, I'm really happy that this is finally happening, and that the Sewell family will be recognized and rewarded in a way for all the suffering that they went through, because this is a plot of land that flooded over and over and over again. Those of you who lived here during Irene and the other big floods that we've had, remember what their house looked like
Right,
in the water.
yeah,
So I happen to be a member and a founder of the group called the Movna Creek Watershed Intermunicipal Council, believe it or not. It's a group of the different municipalities that are part of the movement. And I'd like to ask the board, new board, to be sure that you join that again, because at this point, you don't have a representative to that group, and they can provide professional advice and assistance,
okay,
which they did already for the park. The program called Trees for Tributaries helped to, and some of you may have been part of that, helped to plant bushes and perhaps trees along the Movna to help to prevent flooding. And the woman who did that was a woman named Beth Rustler, who is from the DEC of the state. And I'd like to give you her name and a letter from her offering to help you and to advise you
okay,
about flooding and what can be built there. Because traditionally, the FEMA took over the land and bought out at least her house, and then took down her house because of flooding. They have traditionally had rules that mitigated against building anything on a floodplain like that.
right,
I don't know whether they've become more lenient about that or not, but she would be able to advise you about whether you
Good.
can have, what you can have, and what would be wise to have on a property.
thank you. You have my email, so send me, if there's like an application to rejoin or whatever we need, please forward that over to me.
Okay,
Okay.
and, yeah.
Great, thank you.
And Beth also advised that there's a new grant program which would help to prevent, plant trees in that area. And
Good.
she has that information for you.
Yeah,
So
forward it
pass
over,
on.
because we have a grant, I left a message for Senator Skoufis, but we have a $100,000 grant for downtown lighting and trees. So we'll pursue that. And again, I don't have to see what kind of drawing plan was initiated to come up with that dollar amount, but we're looking for that information. When we do, we can sit down and go over it.
Jean, would the space accommodate maybe a small gazebo where we can put it like a dedication plaque and maybe some pictures of the original home and some type of, those types of photos from, and we'll provide some shade also for people visiting that space in the heat.
We're at the beginning stages of all of this, so, I mean, the largest element on there, I mean, as far as the structure goes, will be the great bandstand. But there's no reason why, within that, there can't be a display box or case, and definitely a plaque that memorializes the family. So, yeah, I mean, I think all of that is important, just so people know,
Where
the
it came
community
from.
know the history, exactly, where it came from. So it's part of the whole,
I was actually amazed. I read the Wikipedia.
yeah,
And I had no idea.
neither did I.
She was an elementary school
Kate.
teacher.
You told me more about it in our last meeting, about her. Yep.
Yeah, Naomi, you'll see that Naomi Sewell Richardson is listed in Wikipedia.
Yep.
And at the end of the article, it says a park was established in her honor
I saw
in Washingtonville.
Right.
And our
She started in
historian
college.
at the library wrote an article about it
Yeah.
also.
Yeah,
So from this meeting, I'll put together the top, the outcomes of this discussion. And that'll be the starting point for when I meet with the school. And I'll just share the notes, and then the next
Sure.
step will be to have a more cohesive meeting with the folks that wanna be involved with it. And we'll get it out there, whether it's via social media or word of mouth,
Work.
old school.
Great.
And if, I'm sorry, and if anybody wants to see what that land, the survey looks like, it's underneath, yeah. Is your bottle dry?
Right by
It's not
Brian.
your- Don't spill. Okay.
Good, thank you. Diane?
I just can't hear.
You can't hear?
Bringing up there, you can't hear back
Okay.
there.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
know.
No, I can hear. On the dais, I can't hear.
One last thing for you guys.
So, because this is a project that is in line with possibly the beautification committee, is it something that we can merge together as opposed to being separate?
Sure. Yeah, for this project, why not, yeah. Absolutely. Makes sense.
Thank
All
you
right,
so
thank you very
much.
much, guys. Look forward to more info. Okay, so our second item for just basic discussion is, will be quick. It's just, we're reviewing our internet connections off of all our buildings and looking at some cost savings. We received a proposal from Light Tower, which increases our bandwidth. And for the police department, that might come in handy because there'll be some video feeds and things like that probably going to the police department and down the road. And their reliability is a lot better than Spectrum at the moment. We've had some issues with them. So more to come. We're just adding up trying to accumulate all of the Spectrum bills at the moment because they're various and across the board. So once we have that information, we'll make some decisions on potentially going with Light Tower for our internet access.
So the audience knows the reason we're thinking of the police station first, and I hope you can hear me, I'm trying to speak up. We did meet, Chief met this week with a video surveillance company. We're trying to get estimates to get the 3 large parks under video surveillance. And that will require a lot more internet.
Cool, thank you. Next item was basically to advise, our last meeting, we asked for letters of intent for different positions on various boards. We have received a bunch of, actually, a bunch for all the different boards. So we've lined up some interviews for tomorrow, specifically starting with trustee and I believe the ZBA. And that will begin tomorrow night at 6:30 at the Village Hall. Obviously, it'll be a meeting, but it'll be an executive session to do interviewing.
Personnel matters.
So we'll take care of that. I also want to note that we'll be, on a monthly basis, we'll be receiving from the building department their monthly status reports. So for the month of April, just for information purposes, they've received 37 building permits. There have been no violations issued. There were 3 municipal searches completed, which is part of the real estate transaction when homes are being sold and bought. There was 1 fire safety and property maintenance completed on one of the new businesses moving into the Brotherhood Mall. And then from planning and zoning, fire safety inspections, we've collected $125. Municipal search collected $525. New construction fees is really more decks, pools, things like that, just general permits is $5,961.22, and total collected is $6,611.22. And that money goes right into the building department fund, just to let you know about that. Next item is for Nelson Pope and Voorhees, our comprehensive plan. We've received basically 2 things. We've received 1, which is for planning services, which is basically working with new applicants that would be submitting plans for buildings and projects as sort, specifically land use and zoning, to make sure we've got the right fit for the right project in the right spot. And that'll be one of the company's jobs. I know that we have a resolution from them. It's been revised by our attorney. And also FYI, our attorney isn't feeling well and he's on my phone on speaker. So if you hear some coughing, it might be him. A voice from the past, thank you. So we have minor changes to it from our attorney, and so for discussion purposes tonight to get some feedback from you guys. So do you have anything, Susan?
No, I went through it, and so the audience knows out there, the purpose of this is before anything even gets submitted to the planning board for review, the planner will look at it. Rather than wasting applicants' time and money, the planner can review it and make sure that it fits, it's a fit, that's the whole thing. Nobody wants a misfit in the village, as far as architecture, structure, and stuff like that.
And with respect to the building department, I don't really look at them as being zoning enforcement to a degree. It's really more, you know, they look at violations and permits and structures and making sure everything is safe. But this company's main focus, again, will be reviewing plans, applications, depending on the scope of it. If it requires seeker, they'll be involved in that whole process. The second phase of this company will also be working on the comprehensive plan and the zoning portion of this. So we also have that proposal that I know we need to talk about, but specifically, I guess, for the planning services, do you have any questions on that, Donna?
Well, we had a lengthy meeting with Bonnie Franson, who is the planner for the company. She will be working, and some of you received the email that I put out. If you were on the comprehensive committee, we're going to move forward with her, and she's going to be attending each meeting. She'll be the chairperson of that committee and guiding us throughout the entire process. You know, it's not just going to be the residents sitting in groups. She will be there in attendance and guiding throughout. She highly recommends and supports a very small group. We had, I don't know, maybe 25 plus people
On the list, but not official.
right, and that's just it. So we're really looking for a firm commitment, about 6 to 7 residents, and then we're going to have one person from the other 2 boards represent. She felt once every 3 to 4 weeks would be an appropriate sustaining type of meeting where we're not burning out. They will be longer, not just an hour, more like 2-ish, in order to get this done in a timely manner. The projected time frame is December for meetings, about a year for completion, because then it has to go through an entire process. So we are holding a public hearing on Thursday regarding this, and we can give more information in more detail. So if you receive the email, or if you're watching this and receive the email, we hope to see you on Thursday, and we'll see who's willing and can commit to being at, you know, most of these meetings, since there are not going to be that many at this point. Once every 3 to 4 weeks, we're talking about maybe 8, 9 meetings. Selena?
Will she have this, or will you have the actual schedule of meetings this Thursday? Like, is it already planned for the
No.
people to
Not
know
the
to
schedule.
commit or not?
I actually emailed you, I don't know if you received it.
Maybe.
We were looking for certain things. There were a couple of questions that I actually had, that I reached out to the planner in the proposal, and one of them was, and I had residents ask me as well after they received the email, are we starting from scratch? Or are we picking up where we left off?
I mean, we have so much information
Well,
already.
and
to
that's
share.
just it, but,
Yeah.
so, see you later, I
Okay.
emailed you
Yeah.
regarding that, and where to get actually everything, if there's a Dropbox where we can get all of it in one nice, tightly, nicely wrapped package to send over to Bonnie. She couldn't answer the question for me, because I felt like, why reinvent the wheel if we already did a lot of this work? We have the maps, we have a lot of the grunt work that we've already been doing. So let's move forward with that. If there needs to be revisions, we can make revisions, and it'll be more, hopefully, cost effective to pick up where we left off. Right. You want to-
No? You got anything else? Or is
No,
that-
we're good.
You good? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so at the next meeting then, I think we'll move forward with the approval of the professional services. And then we should have all our answers taken care of so that we can move forward on the comprehensive vote for that as well. And then we can, by then we'll have probably the group that will be part of the comprehensive plan. And they will be public meetings too, by the way, so that you might not be involved in the initial conversations of what's going on at the meeting, but after the meeting, there'll be an open conversation for suggestions, ideas of anything that was discussed at the meeting. And again, it will be chaired by the planner. One of the board members will be here, but we're gonna publicize it as if it's a regular meeting, per se. Okay, so that everybody has an opportunity. Because the one thing I don't wanna see happen is that the train goes, leaves the station, pulls in at the next one, we're ready to adopt and have a last public hearing, and then people aren't aware of things that have been going on along the way. So this way, I think everybody has a good opportunity. They'll be taped, they'll be online, so everybody hopefully can, be part of the process.
And if you're not part of the committee, we welcome input and feedback. too.
Right,
So
absolutely.
there's always room for comments, concerns. You can email us. There'll be public hearings along the way through the process.
Right. Okay, good. So we'll table that for now, and then we'll take care of that at our next meeting. Our next item was the Witchingtonville After Dark event. And we just wanted to go over, and you guys are here, so would you like to verbally say anything or just describe the Witchingtonville, what you're proposing? I know the chief had some comments, so I'm glad you're here, we're doing this, and then we can continue the conversation. It's early, obviously, in the year, but we want to get it settled and have our plan in place for the event, so if you'd like to say
We want to kind of
something.
keep the same concept that we had last year, the same blueprint. We want to do more in Mays Field this year. Actually, the chief and Sergeant Wakeham recommended we have more things in Mays Field,
Right,
kind of scatter the crowd out a little bit. I guess our main concern this year is the amount of people and safety. So besides the public assembly permit shutting down McLaughlin Commons, we asked if we could shut down Main Street from 208 to North Street. And I wanted the chief's input on that. We had spoken briefly about it. Our main concern is that many people and possibly more people. Is there gonna be a safety issue, or people crossing the street or with the barriers?
Yeah, we felt like last year that towards the end of the night, a lot of the kids were hopping the barricades. So we just thought that, God forbid, one of the kids got their foot stuck and then fell into the road, so it just made us a little nervous. That if the street was closed, we'd be able to spread out, the dancing school could use it, there could be more vendors. It was very congested at Almada's, it was very congested by us because of all the games, so if that spread out, it would enable people to move more freely,
right.
maybe have more things so there's not long lines everywhere.
So essentially, it would be closing the roads from 6 to 10.
6 to 10.
Yeah, or the peak of the event, I guess that would be discussed.
I mean, last year they wound up shutting North Street at one point because of the traffic. I know that's an easier road to close.
Is that planted?
Everybody in favor?
Sure.
If I ever saw tomatoes, I see you.
We just felt like poor M10 was so exhausted at the end, trying to cross all those people back and forth and the police, that maybe there's a better way.
And we welcome your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't met, I wanted to meet with I spoke to the mayor quickly this morning, and then I reached out, left you a message, and I wrote a real quick memo to the village board. There's a lot more than just, as you know, a lot more than just approving a permit for this. I mean, we have to coordinate with the fire department, the ambulance, state DOT, town of Blooming Grove Police, I'm sure Blooming Grove Highway Department, because if we do consider closing 94 for that area, we have to detour traffic, Clove Road, Tut Hill Road, things like that. You can't just shut it down there and expect cars to find it. So it's a big undertaking. And I only see the application for McLaughlin Square. I don't see anything for Mays Field or about behind Almada's. So before we approve anything for that event, are we doing anything in Witchingtonville during the day? Because that's all got to be considered. It's an entire day, and all I see is the permit for McLaughlin Square, so I'd like to sit down with the events committee, yourself, and kind of figure out the day before we say, yeah, let's do this. Because all you have is 5,000 people for McLaughlin Square. That's not, as you know, that's not gonna work. So, parking, you know, we gotta consider parking. DPW's gotta be there, they gotta be involved for manpower, putting up the pedestrian barricades, picking them up. And I'm just trying to figure out, we can get anything done, I just gotta figure out what the day looks like, instead of just piecemealing it. All right, let's approve your permit, let's approve Amada's permit, let's approve Fulton Square's permit, because I know they're probably gonna be interested in doing something. So instead of just saying yes to you and no to others, I think we should sit down as a group, right? And at their meeting, I see they're gonna start meeting on Thursdays. I think it's a good starting point to kind of figure out what we do, to get everybody on the same page, like this is what the day event, because we did have, as you know, a lot of struggles last year, switching from Wichendaville to your event. I mean, it was a lot of safety issues, so,
Do you feel if the daytime event was earlier, would that help?
Yeah, because I know
If there was
last
more
year
of
it
a gap, because it
overlapped.
was kind of one after the other.
it's definitely a very tasking for the police department. You know, we have 23 police officers, most of them will be working that day, not just for a few hours, the entire day. So it's something that we have to really consider, and as I've expressed to you, like shutting down that portion of 94 is not that as easy as just putting some barricades up. Signage through DOT is gonna have to probably be placed 2 weeks before, detour signs, and it's not like an easy, a quick drive down Woodcock Mountain Road, as we know from the time that Bloomingdale applied for the permit, we couldn't detour traffic down Woodcock Mountain Road. It was a violation. They said they would pull the state permit if we tried doing that, but we thought that was the right thing to do. So,
How is it handled during like a parade, like say a
Yeah,
Christmas parade?
Brian, can I make a suggestion? Being that we need to do a group effort meeting
yeah,
and Mays Field, if Tom or one of the other board members would sit with me, you, Lieutenant Wakeham, and the business owners, to see what we could come up with.
yeah, that's what I
It
was,
was a huge event last year. The issue that I have thinking about shutting down the center of the village is that the response time for any emergency coming out of this village would add too much time. I love the event, I thought it was great, but maybe we could see if we could do more stuff over down by Mays. If the Supervisor Geralman doesn't choke me before then, but maybe we could kinda, instead of doing 2 spots, would it help you to do more at Mays for that day?
yeah, I agree. I think we should sit down with the events committee and kind of
Yeah,
talk about the whole day.
We could make a separate meeting, I'll come, Tom, I'm sure, and I can get the supervisor to come as well.
As you know, having different locations is troublesome. You have to do a safety plan for each one, traffic plan for each one. If you have, we did one for Fulton Square last year, we did one for your spot, we did one for Amada's. It was handled, we learned at the last minute, we had to close North Street because of the issues we were having. Our crossing guard almost quit last year. She was frustrated. She was like, never again am I doing this again. I hinted to her the other day, hey, were you gonna help us out? And she
No, she
said
already
she
told
would.
us no scratch.
But I don't wanna delay the event, because I think we have plenty of time to work on it. And I think it'll happen.
The permit was for McLaughlin Square with the closing being an addendum, so we're not,
Yeah.
it's not like we won't have the event
Yeah.
if we don't close the street. I
Yeah.
think that's why we also
I
put in the
think we
permit for
could,
Main
if we
Field.
could somehow organize a meeting with us to sit down and like really go over it, what we need, how we messed up.
Yeah.
A separate meeting other than a village board meeting,
Yeah.
kind of to go over it, to critique it to the best that we can. For all
Absolutely.
the businesses and for, PD, both PDs and.
So Kathy, why don't you and I hook up, we'll try to find a date, be it here or at the town hall, and we can get everybody who is interested in being there, and just let them invite the core group, and
I'm
come up
only
with,
going if you buy me my coffee.
if Amadas needs to be there, that's fine, whoever, whatever.
Has there been talk with the events committee to do like,
We are part of the events committee.
is there a talk about doing something at Vernon Allen or behind
There is.
Amada's,
There
Fulton
is.
Square?
Yeah.
Or-
We're not sure about Fulton Square, but Amada will probably do something.
Is that, I think really that needs to be part of the whole
We think the main
discussion.
focus would be Mays Field,
Mhm.
Amada's Lot, and then to a degree, the McLaughlin Commons.
Okay,
We're
Yeah,
trying to
we know-
spread it out.
Yeah, Amada's was packed because she had so many things going on there. That's why we
Mhm.
thought if we moved it into the field, some of those
Yeah.
attractions, it would take a lot of the crowds away from the main road.
okay, I think it's a good plan if we can meet and work some of these things out, and we have,
Ryan, right now, the events committee has an allotted, second Thursday of every month at 7 o'clock here. You can use, right now, you guys are gonna meet this, on the 11th, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, May 11th.
So maybe the following, I mean, I don't know. Friday
Well,
nights are
Patrick, why
always
don't you guys
available.
talk to the committee for the 11th? Maybe we can just kill two birds with one stone here.
Okay.
We can come in and take the time, go over the whole thing, Kathy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're gonna need Wayne on deck, we need Chris Martino, we need Lieutenant Wakeham, we need you, we need me, and we need the supervisor too, to
Right.
make sure that it's a joint effort and
Mhm.
that we can cover it the correct way for everybody, and that everybody would in essence be happy, which we all know that'll never happen.
Okay, so let's take a look, why don't you let us know if that works for the 11th at
Okay.
7?
And it wouldn't
And then
make
we'll
sense
make
if the
ourselves
event,
available.
if there was a day event for it to be earlier, so it didn't overlap.
yeah, absolutely, that was one of the
Yeah.
tasks. We did an after-action review ourselves, and that was one of the biggest issues we had, was trying to deal with that traffic and then this traffic. And we did have some extra people coming in, but it was chaotic. You know, traffic is traffic, but it's the pedestrians that you're worrying about. There was 4 intersections there, and then we had the 2 at North Street, so it's 6 intersections. We're dealing with walking people across the road. We're trying to, you know, and I wish it was as easy to close 94 in that area, but for a quick like turnaround, like if you close West Main Street between the high school and 208, I don't know if trucks are allowed on Hudson Road, but that's an easy route, you know, right? One way, and that's it. Closing this portion is
Do you
totally
feel
different.
closing North Street for duration would be helpful?
If we had to do what we did last year, we would definitely close North Street for southbound traffic, because the intersection there was too chaotic to cross people. But we managed it. Once we learned, once we realized, like I said, Linda almost got hit a couple times. Our cops almost got hit several times. We can wear the vests and wear traffic vests and flashlights, but some people are just looking at what's going on and not paying attention to you. So if we were to do what we did last year, we would definitely close southbound traffic on North Street to at least make it safer for people to walk. Because once we did that, it did help out a lot. But I think we can work together and just figure it out.
Absolutely.
I did send the village board a memo about 3:30 or so this afternoon. I left a message. We'll talk afterwards or tomorrow about it more, but.
Okay. All right, so we'll wait to hear from you officially, just to confirm.
Yeah,
That
I
would be
think May
good to
11th
go.
makes sense, but
Okay.
get back to you
Julie?
tomorrow.
Julie, you had a question?
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to Kathy after this.
Okay. All right, cool. Anything else on that subject, guys? Okay. With that, we've been reviewing financial information in the village since April 3rd. We just wanted to kind of run over some of the situations and issues that we're currently having with our processes, procedures. So with that, let me just get into it and we can kind of run over it. So initial issues that we've been able to identify. So one of the biggest things we ran into is that the previous year invoices from budget years 21 and 22. Approximate year-to-date amounts have been paid out of the 2023 budget. We had just,
Can everybody see this? Do we need to turn the light off?
Yeah.
No, I just want Tom to talk a little bit louder.
sure,
Thank you.
We know you can.
He's a big boy, boys.
it's okay? All right.
Yeah, that's okay.
So let me go back. So basically, from the previous year invoices from 2021 and 2022. We've been there, over the last 2 weeks, there were checks written out of the 2023 budget for $1.3 million out of the general fund, $427,000 out of the sewer fund, and $38,000 out of our water fund, for a total of $1.8 million, give or take some change. And that was all within the last 2 weeks. And some of the, excuse me,
Next
2 weeks
two
when?
weeks of the current, previous.
previous to us taking office, after the election, between the election and basically now, that amount of checks were written to different vendors. The one that really sticks out happened to be an insurance one. We're still trying to track down the actual
600.
date when it hit, but it was for the state of New York Civil Service Health for $628,000. Now, of everything that we've been able to find, there is nothing that would be a total invoice of that particular amount. So we're making an assumption at the moment that this is a multiple year situation, that these funds were, the invoices were in, but they just weren't paid. And we're finding that through, again, as you can see, for the last 2 weeks, what went on after the new budget year was in place. The other issues is that, and it's all processes and it's policy, but all the invoices that came in were basically put in a file folder, and the previous mayor was responsible for approving and making those payments. A lot of the vouchers and paperwork and processes that should be signed by trustees and signed by department managers first as a submission of invoices was in a lot of cases absent, not there. The other huge issue from a treasurer and accountant standpoint is that we didn't have anybody for the last 6 years. So again, all of this had fallen on the administration to, just try to pay the bills. And in paying the bills, we're using QuickBooks, which is a third-party application from Intuit, good application, but for the details of accounting, a lot of the processes were not in the software. So they were really just using it to print checks at the end of the day. The financial computer system was abandoned probably 6 years ago from what we can see. So again, using just paper documentation, using QuickBooks for printing the checks. So what fails is that there's no paper trail on the accounting, and accounting practices were not followed. The lack of documentation is delaying the annual audits for the general water and sewer funds and the AUD submissions to New York State, which is just a recap of your budget, budget that is analyzed by the consultants. We're looking for the 2016, 17, 18, and 19 audits along with the ADUs. If they were submitted, we're trying to find out if they were submitted to the New York State Controller's Office, and we have calls into the office trying to get these answers. Audits and annual updates for the AUDs, and that is an annual update document, AUD. We still need to do the years of 2021, 22, and 23. The priority right now is this current year because of all the checks that were written out of the budget of 2023. We're concerned about obviously the cash flow of what is in our current budget and what's going to be potentially left at the end of the year. The other thing that we've done is we reached out to the company that handles all of the tax dollars coming in, and all of that then being presented and entered into the system. We're supposed to, from taxes from residentials and businesses, is in the area of about $3.9 million, just that alone. So we have, I've seen 1.8, then the money comes in a little bit, and then obviously we need to pay bills. So the money goes down. So we're trying to find out from the tax company what is the total amount of taxes that we have received. So we're waiting on that. So the lack of the budgets and the AUD submission submitted to the, not being submitted, Moody's had removed again our bond rating in 2020, basically taking away our credit rating and saying that because we have no data for Washingtonville, they can no longer post any type of AAA, AA, whatever our financial rating was. And with that, we don't have it. And with that, the other day, I tried to get a credit card because there are certain things that need to be paid by credit card from software companies and things of that nature. Because we have no financials, I could not get a credit card. So
For the
we're,
village? For the village?
for the village, not for me personally.
You're saying 2 weeks,
Yeah.
like the past 2 weeks?
Yeah.
It was the weeks from election,
Prior to our
and it's a
administration.
village
Right.
credit card.
Correct, correct.
So
My apologies.
basically, if we had a big enough emergency, we can't borrow money to fix it.
Yeah.
Now, did the previous administration have a credit card?
Not to my knowledge, no. We have a Home Depot card, but that's all that I'm aware of. That was a village card that we use for emergency purposes and things that we just need to get that you wouldn't, doesn't cost. We're paid to order a couple of bolts from X, Y, and Z vendors that are out there. So we're also investigating, because of those expenditures, we're trying to figure out really what our fund balance is moving forward into this year that started on March 1. Because of, again, because of everything was spent, we're not really sure. Normally you roll over a fund balance from year to year. That number looked like it could be in the neighborhood of $400,000, but we're still trying to confirm that number. But again, because of the 1.8 million written in checks, that would certainly wipe out that 400 if that's what the actual number is. The department heads were not part of the budget process. The entire annual budget was completed by the previous budget officer, which is the mayor. In 23-24, the budget increases was only 3%. The treasurer at the time recommended a minimum starting increase of 15% because of the lack of increases along the way. And that obviously, by not raising taxes, cuts into your fund balance. So if you had a healthy fund balance at the beginning of terms, by the time you get to 6 years, you could be well under the 400,000. And we're looking again for those audits to explain some of those details. Revenue amounts in the revenue codes of the current new budget that was introduced by the former administration, there were numbers in there that were inflated on certain revenue codes, and of course it would inflate the total revenue, money coming in. For an example, the Orange County sales tax was budgeted at 1.3 million, and it's only gonna be 1.1 million. And that's a significant difference just on that one particular line. Grant monies have been commingled into the general fund. So the hurt there is that we can't locate certain grant money that came in. So we have a $50,000 grant for PD, we have $433,000 that came in from FEMA repairing of Bull Road. Those should have been put into separate dedicated accounts so that money then could have been paid out to wherever it needed to go. By putting it into a general fund, it becomes part of your general expenses, which makes it obviously very difficult to track. And to say that that money potentially has already been spent for electric and other bills that are paid out of the multi-fund. In the general fund, we found that the water and sewer funds have also been commingled into the general fund. So what happens is you have your A fund, which is general, which is like Village Hall, Police Department, DPW. You have a water fund, which is just water. You have sewer fund, which is just sewer. If you can take money out of one of those accounts and share it for a short period of time, the problem is what you're supposed to do within 30 days is return that money to where the account, where that money came from initially. We can't find any of that documentation that any of those transfers happened. The other thing is the transfers were never approved. So at a meeting, you'll hear us talk about, at the end of the meeting, where we approve budget transfers and amendments necessary to transfer funds to pay warrants. That covers us to say that we've signed off on the paperwork, the department head signed off, we sign off, it goes to accounting, accounting then puts it in the system, and through the processes, twice a month now, we're paying bills. And then the bill will get paid, and we're covered. But without a resolution from these guys and from the board, if I was to move something from here to there, I'm breaking every policy that could be. That it's just fundamental accounting that's not supposed to happen. We have planning board escrow accounts that are not balancing right now. They're not up to date. We're starting to take a look at that so we can organize those fund balances and the escrow accounts to make sure, number one, we have the money in escrow when an applicant comes in, and that when checks are written back out, or to pay, for an example, the attorney or a land use person, that they're being paid out of those escrow funds, not out of village funds. It's being paid by the applicant. Part of that example, as I mentioned, was the police fund of the 50,000 plus the FEMA fund for Bull Road of the $435,000. For the general and sewer funds, those have been commingled. In an example, water fund invoices were paid from sewer fund, and it's documented on the checks. But the money again is not going from the account that it was expensed and then back to the originating fund where it came from. Again, policies. One of the others are bidding on road projects, capital projects. Basically, there were normally anything over a certain amount from our procurement policy, you need to be able to go out to bid. Some require 2 quotes, some require 3 quotes. For the amount of money that was spent on several road projects, there wasn't any bidding done. They picked a particular vendor, contractor, and the work was done. The only time you can really go and take one vendor if they're already approved on a state list that says Tilcon has been approved as the lowest bidder, responsible bidder, you can use them for paving. But in these cases, that was not done. Was not done at all. And that's really, at this point, of most of the things that we've run into. There are, and we'll continue this process, just to obviously keep, obviously the board's informed, and obviously to keep the public informed of, what's going on with our financials, as we promised, we would definitely do along the way. So at this point, actions that we have taken from the 3 pages previously. Today I spoke to the Deputy State Controller. He has indicated, based upon our conversation, that the State Controller's Office will be ordering a risk analysis of our financial budgets. We're in the process of hiring a firm to complete our budget year of 2021, 22, and 23. Hopefully we'll have somebody selected by the end of this week. Our priority to get audited is 2022 and 2023, working backwards, since we're in this somewhat of a quandary, again, because of that amount of money that was written by the previous board in between the election and our first days in office. It was an enormous amount of money. So we're going to be working on that. We had, early on, we had made attempts to reach out to the Comptroller's Office requesting the audit, and we finally got to the point where we've heard from the Deputy Controller today, so that's very good news. We're also in the process of interviewing accounting firms for forensic financial audits. If we can't get that out of the controller's office, we are now going to be hiring our own firm to do the forensic audit. We modified our treasurer's responsibility to handle all daily activities. What she was doing initially when she was brought aboard, and she's very good at what she does, she was working on the basic budgets and trying to accumulate and try to figure out through all the paper if I could put together an audit for the budget of, say, 2020 or 2021. And she's at the point where at 2020 to 2021. We have most of that information. But our problem was that we didn't have anybody steering the ship on a daily basis financially. So we directed her to take care of the daily stuff. She pays the bills, she's checking everything that's coming through the pipeline. And it's working because we are paying bills twice a month. So the other firm is gonna be responsible for doing the budgets. We also, last month, or last meeting, we mentioned that where the financial software that we had was not being used and has been basically sunset at this point. You can't even, it's so many versions behind, you can't even use the software. So we went out and we purchased what they're calling, the name of the company is Edmunds. It's a financial software suite. It will handle everything we need to do and then some. There are additional modules that can be plugged into this system, and we plan on taking a look at that next year, like the building department software, which is already Edmunds, so that's good. So when we get the financial up, anything that's going on that side of the fence, monetarily, will be automatically interfaced into our financial system. The other system that we have is the water and sewer billing, and that's on an island all by itself right now. We'd like to take a look at that Edmunds application, and that would also be integrated and also give us one system that we can go and look at anything and the information would be there, and it's seamless. So I put in the water amount and payment comes in and it's posted automatically into the Edmunds system. So our treasurer will know exactly what's going on.
Well, let me explain that a little bit further.
Sure.
When the water and sewer bills go out, there's three parts to that actually need to get into three different accounts. You have the water part, you have the sewer part, and then we have a usage. Everybody sees, I think it's 35 and 58.
35.73.
The bill just came today.
It came tonight.
So
Thank you. Hey,
all that technically needs to go into is a separate account for each one of those. Right now, with the way it's set up, that's not being done, and that sewer charge, that 37 and change, is actually to pay the bond for the new sewer plant, and that's why that needs to get separated out into its own account.
Right.
Sorry, I just had to.
No, that's
explain
good. No, that's good information, because when she, and she's describing, right, you got the water section, you got the sewer section, and you got that 37 for facilities charges. All that money gets dumped into one account. But now that we have the reports off the water and billing system, we can take the water section that we collect, say it's $100,000, and move that into the water fund. And then take that facilities charge amount of $198,000, and we can move that into the facilities charge. So that money is dedicated for future projects. And it'll be seamless, because right now, the balance in the sewer fund is here, our water fund is here, because of the transferring of money out of one fund, feeding something else. So that's a real good point. And just another point, our sewer plant, which was somewhat completed in 2020, we're working on that feverishly to figure out where it finished, because we came across some information talking to our bond people and attorneys that somewhere in 2020 they signed off on it and they went into long-term borrowing. Our payment right now for this year will be $443,000 that needs to be paid in August. That's what we pay for the sewer plant for this year. It's a 50-year bond. Originally, we heard it was a 30-year bond. Problem with a 50-year bond is, the life expectancy of a sewer plant is somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 25 years. So all that really means at the end of the day, for people that are young enough, they'll be paying for the current bond, and then another 25 years down the road, potentially having to pay an additional bond on top of that to take care of basically upgrading the plant, because that's what's necessary every, say, 20 years. So that's just a side note on the sewer plant. So another good step that was taken, we meet weekly with all the department managers. We go over top issues, we go over financials. We have a process in place now, again, with vouchers. Department heads are now responsible for approving all the invoices for payment. If any data is missing, it goes right back to them. And then Brian does a super job. He's got it nailed down, tight as a clam. So thank you, Brian. We analyze, we're in the process of analyzing where Susan was going. She's become the water and sewer billing hero. So, so we're working on it feverishly, and we're trying to attack every bill oddity. So by analyzing the water sewer billing system, we've come across a couple of different issues. One is data entry. The other one is policies which are software related. There's inconsistencies there. We've had way too many estimated readings. So now when the guys go read, if they need to do an estimate, they gotta call me on my cell phone. I wanna know why. Because it's out of control. Out of control.
But I put them inside.
And what that's uncovered, thanks to Chris Martino, because he was the previous water sewer billing guru, we have a number of different issues with the water meters. Either they're not spinning, either the meter's not acting right, or the device on the outside of the house where we read the meter is not working correctly. So all of that is going to be addressed. And we're gonna do a book, we have a book by book, which is like section of the village. And we'll do that. In the meantime, Susan now is running when we run the water and sewer billing next month, and we did it this month, we run an exception report. Anything that's an oddity over X amount of gallons shows up on an exception report. So how in the world am I used 7,000 forever, and now all of a sudden it's 55,000? Well, you know, the old answer was, well, they must be long showers, they got a leak.
It's November.
Mr. Backenheimer's building was over 100,000 gallons of water, and he must have had a leak. I said, if he had a leak, we'd be taking a boat down Fairlawn Drive. I said, stop with those answers. I said, we need to get to the bottom of this stuff. So I promise that's what we're trying to do. It's gonna take some time, but we are going after it feverishly. Because if we do jump from this current system to this Edmunds system, we want our data to be clean, and you obviously to get the right bill that you're expecting. So that's what we're doing on that end.
I mean, you guys know, people were having panic attacks. It was all over Facebook when the water bills were coming out.
So
we were making our rounds and knocking on doors. We were experiencing that from how many countless of residents, and that was one of our promises.
And part of that I can explain to you is when estimates are done quarter after quarter after quarter, the way the system was set up in the background is that it would do an estimate of 75% of the last 6 months worth of bills. So you get 3-4 estimates in a row, your last estimate is gonna look great because it's probably next to nothing. And then when they actually do read the meter, it's a huge bill. We did change that now, so instead of 75% estimate, it's gonna be a 90% estimate.
So at the end of the day, it'll be a closer number to your actual bill. So if there is an estimate needed, when we do that reading and send the bill, the gap will be only this big, and a slight variance besides, you know, getting another 100,000 gallons added to your bill because they were all estimates. So that was the real pinch on that one. So again, we've changed that. The other piece of the puzzle, again, back to the sewer plant that we met with the bond council folks regarding the sewer bond payments. They're telling us that they're sitting on about $300,000 of past due invoices. And I'm like, well, how, when? He goes from the years of 2016 to 2019. Can't quite figure why either why the payment stopped or what happened. So with that, and the other important note on that too is that there is apparently still $1.2 million sitting out there that the village can take advantage of and use for the sewer plant. So if we were to catch up and pay off all of our bills to all of our vendors, then the remaining balance will pay off the principal of the loan, which would help, pay down our debt. And then the other side of that, to get really into the nuts and bolts of these contractors that were involved in building the plant, we're scheduling a meeting with this company. It's called H2M. They're out of Long Island. They're the designers, and they were the project managers of the new sewer plant build-out from the old plant to the new plant, and try to find out what was the issue with these outstanding $300,000 worth of payments that no one seems to have gone after, or maybe has even asked for. So again, we're taking a look at that. We have meetings coming up with those guys. And the one important thing, to the plant is that when these guys decided to leave the plant, some of the work wasn't even completed. So for example, in the electrical side of the house, there are wires and things that were done that were never even finished. And then we find out that this company went out of business. So again, we need to get with this company, H2M, figure out all of our vendors, work with Chris, work with our H2O consulting guys that are managing the sewer plant right now, and figure out how, get our hands around this thing and try to figure it all out at the end of the day. We're also reviewing our vendor contracts to see if there's any possible savings, anything that was out there to bring some money back or save money. And then, our back to the commingling of grants and revenue deposits, and we're in the process of creating all new accounts as necessary, so that money doesn't kind of slip away if you jump it into the general fund. So, I know that's a mouthful, it's a lot of information, but we felt it was important, to talk about it, let you guys know what's going on financially, and we're working very hard every single day to, to take care of these positive actions and move this stuff forward. So with that, is there anyone that might have any questions on that data? Jolie?
Yeah, Jolie Zara, 71 West Main Street. So in the beginning, when you were talking about all these payments being made and just discrepancies, is there negligence from the last administration that is going on, or, do they do things, was it?
I don't know. All I know is kind of what we have, and I'm relying, I just want to make sure from a dollar perspective that we're sound and that we can actually create these budget reports based upon paper because there was no system used. So,
We'll let the auditors determine.
Sure. Well,
They're
what's
all
the
paperwork.
responsibility? As an older administration, are they just out, that's it, their hands are washed of anything that happens, or are they still responsible for the fiscal years that they were on the board?
That's the auditors.
I don't know.
That's
That's up
not
to
for
them.
us to say.
What we're trying to do is obviously, we had concerns about this, we raised the concerns, now we're digging into it, and we just need auditors now to walk us through it. And that's what we're doing.
Okay, and I have one other question. I had dealt with this, when I moved to the village, I never even opened an application for my water sewer. So is there some kind of a thing that somebody actually has to fill out a paper to open their account? We started getting billed, it was 3 quarters before we got our money back. We never even turned our water on. It miraculously turned on by itself. So is there something that safeguards somebody buying a property that, that they can turn it on?
So we actually just changed part of our system. I had them create a form. When somebody goes to get a mortgage, they do what's called a municipal search. Goes to the building department. As soon as the building department gets that and returns the municipal search, they're now sending to the title company a form that's gonna ask who the new owner is and if it's gonna be owner occupied. When somebody does leave, they also get what's called a final reading. So that kind of clues that it's gonna be shut off. One of the guys from the DPW used to be, or now H2O goes over and they do the final reading, so that gets flagged in the system. Why your water was off,
No, it was on. They turned it on. I guess, when they got the county reports that the house was sold, they just put my name on, spelled wrong still to this day, and started charging us. We were in a different predicament that the house that we purchased had mold. We couldn't even go in the house.
water was always
So-
on, and as soon as when they find out through the filed documents that there's a new name, they'll just put the new name on the account.
The title company.
Okay, but it's not, if I can make a suggestion to have a step where somebody actually comes or calls, like I had to contact Orange and Rockland to turn the power on in my name. And when they billed me for gas, we couldn't go in the house, but we used the electric in the garage. So we were able to have water and cold beverages and foods while we were in the property, but they removed the charges for the gas, and they removed it from my bill because we weren't, they shut it. It was never turned on again until we were ready because we went through construction. So if there's some kind of a safe way that you can make that you don't just get knowledge from the county, like I live this, I know it's a pain, but just because somebody purchases a house, my neighbor just sold their house March 23rd, it closed, nobody's living there yet. Why would they have to get a bill for water that they haven't used?
So again, when somebody calls for a final reading, if the water is not being used, you still get the minimum sewer charge, because that goes on there. And if the meter's not moving, there should not be a water charge.
Right, you think, we got estimated charges at the time, we now have a smart meter, so that shouldn't happen. But again, why are you paying for service when you're not opening your service?
Again, when a title transfers, the account goes to the next owner automatically. If the services are not being used, the meter's not moving, there's no charge. If it's a faulty meter, that's a different issue.
But you're still charging a basic service.
Yes.
But you shouldn't be, because the service hasn't been turned on by the applicant, by the
You
person.
own that property. Every property owner gets that charge,
Why?
whether you're living there or not.
Why? That was
What?
never even explained to me.
That I can't help. I wasn't at your closing,
No, I
wasn't your
understand,
attorney.
but it's gonna then happen as
So-
you're saying to the next person, and it really shouldn't.
So,
3 minutes.
Okay,
Julie, we
sorry,
can take
thank
this
you.
offline,
Yeah.
and we can figure it out. Diane?
What's that?
Oh, I thought you had to say something.
No, I said, is there a
Yeah.
3-minute rule here?
Not really.
3-minute rule?
No.
Maybe I can.
I'll take the hint, I'm
I
good.
can add something to Jolie. When we lived on Cardinal Drive, we had well and septic. We got a water bill every month, even though we didn't have city water. Everyone paid towards the sewer plant, whether you had water or didn't.
Right.
So,
Right.
once you own the house,
For somebody, maybe you can put something online, or you can just have something, maybe your
maybe
first
you
there-
bill.
there is a new
talk to
process.
Susan about it.
Yeah, maybe your first bill was
We'll
something.
talk offline.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Come see me. I'll arrange, I'll pull up your account and you can see everything.
Well, I'm not so worried about mine now, because it's been dealt with, but for the next person that we went through that,
Yeah.
so.
Julie, it's similar like if you're renting or if you're purchasing a home and you're not living in it, you're still paying that mortgage. You're still paying bills on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else on that? Okay. Otherwise, now we'll go into the section for resolutions. So authorization to approve the attendance to the NICOM, which is New York Conference of Mayors, spring session, May 17th through the 19th. Registration not to exceed $350 per person, cross room, depending on availability. Have a motion, please?
Motion.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Resolution authorize the approval of public assembly permit for the Washingtonville Little League T-ball practice on Tuesday and Thursday, April 4th through June 22nd, 2023, from 5 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. at L. Vern Allen Park. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Authorization approval for Fuel Master Fuel Management System Extended Maintenance Agreement at a cost of $550 a year. Motion?
Make a motion?
Second?
Second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Authorization approval of 845 Smoke Shop Design signage for store at Brotherhood Plaza Drive. The sign is 56 inches in length by 12.7 inches in height. It is the same red color as the other ones. They're all backlit. I don't believe this gentleman decided not to put any lighting behind it, so it's just the red letters. And I think Susan just kind of gave you a glance of what it is. Everything, all the forms, all the permits and everything went through the building department, so no issues there. Have a motion, please?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Authorization to schedule a public hearing on May 15th at 7 p.m. regarding revising local law and extending village moratorium. Have a motion,
I will
please?
make a motion.
I will second that motion.
Any questions?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Authorize the event committee to use the village hall the second Thursday of each month, starting on May 11th at 7 p.m. Have a motion, please?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
I just want to explain that to the audience. That was just a technical thing. They have been using this building. However, proper usage is the board is supposed to approve the usage. So we were just cleaning up a little housekeeping on that.
It's good for our
Also,
calendar.
if I could make a request, because for the website, I update that calendar. So if you're not going to use it, could somebody let us know so I can put cancel? If we need to schedule something else on that evening, it's available? Would that be okay?
Sure.
Thank you.
Oh, you said, okay. I didn't have this, to be honest with you.
I
Oh,
did.
you did? Okay. I just need to go back to the moratorium. We do have a resolution that was written, my apologies. So the resolution meeting at the Village Board, Village Washingtonville, New York, was conveyed on May 1st, 2023 at 7 p.m. The following resolution duly offered and second. Resolution setting public hearing to consider revising local law and extending village moratorium. Whereas the village previously adopted local law number 1 of year 2022, a local law entitled a law establishing a 6 months moratorium prohibiting the review and approval of certain land development applications in the village of Washingtonville. And whereas such local law was filed with the Secretary of State on December 1st, 2022, and whereas the moratorium enacted by such local law is set to expire on June 1st, 2023. Whereas the village board desires to consider the local law to revise and extend the moratorium, now therefore be resolved that Section 1, the above whereas paragraph is incorporated herein by reference. Section 2, the village board hereby sets the public hearing for May 15th at 7 p.m. or sooner thereafter as can be heard to consider revisions and extensions of the local law establishing a 6-month moratorium prohibiting the review and approval of certain land development applications in the village of Washingtonville. Section 3, the village clerk is hereby directed to publish and post said public hearing in accordance with the law and ensure the publication of notice in the village official paper. Section 4, the mayor and other village officer, employee, and consultant is as directed by the mayor shall take any and all actions necessary to carry out the provisions in this resolution. This resolution shall be effective immediately.
Can I just clarify something? Where it
Please.
says that it's due to expire on June 1st, most of you know, but for those that don't, for the record, we get 2 6-month extensions after that date.
Okay.
That can be done by just a resolution, I
Right.
believe.
Yeah. Brian, you still there?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Everything okay with that?
It can be done by resolution, but
Right.
we're recommending this will be done by local law since there's a modification.
Correct, okay. Okay, so just to finish this, the question of adoption of the foregoing resolution was duly put to a vote and the roll call, which results as follows. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thanks, Christine. Great.
Oh, man.
So we have that. So the next resolution authorizing hiring of Al Mann as a seasonal laborer, salary at $15 an hour, effective 5/2 through November 1st, 2023. Have a motion?
Make a motion.
Second?
I will second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Abstract to authorize budget transfers and amendments as necessary to effect necessary transfers of funds and to pay warrants. Have a motion, please.
I make a motion.
Second,
Second.
any questions?
Yep, let's get the bills paid.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. We're at the portion for any public comment.
Patrice
Patrice.
Gessner, 7 Puritan.
Yes,
I just want to say thank you to the new board for all your diligence. I didn't realize, you put your faith into people, and I've been here for 5 years, and I'm dumbfounded by the findings that you're finding in that office as far as the monies are concerned. So I appreciate you looking out for us and the village and getting us back on track.
thank you. Wayne?
Just a question, is that presentation gonna be available online?
Let's see why not. Brian? You there? The question is, I have a 3-page PowerPoint presentation that I just went over for as financial review. The question in the audience is, will this be, or can this be online, uploaded?
I don't know, is it something you just presented what was on there anyway?
Yes,
Yeah, I don't see any issue with that if you want to put it up there.
okay,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll put it on the website. Okay, thank you, Brian, appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Or a copy, just can't
Or a
take a
copy.
picture of it here.
Diane.
Diane?
Okay, I just have a question, Diane Mack, Castle Drive. I put in a couple of, incident reports regarding the culvert that comes down between Capitol and, the next street, I should know the street.
Capital,
Here.
No,
going
I'll get the name of the street.
Congress?
No, it's before then, but anyway.
Okay,
So it's on, it's behind one Capitol, and then it's another street here, and here's Decker.
okay,
So the culvert comes down, and it's all clogged up.
okay,
So all the other drainage has been done. I asked for that to be done, and it's still there. There's grass dumpings there now that are piling up. yesterday's rain, it all backed up, and my yard's a swamp. So, all I'm asking is if the culvert.
Sorry.
I can't see that. Like, yeah, well, I don't have my glasses on, so. So my question is, can you just have the culvert that's on Decker cleaned out? It's kind of across from 17 Decker,
All right, we'll go out and look at it.
not Decker.
Chris, is it
Yes, it is Decker.
Decker?
It is Decker,
Okay.
but, it needs to be.
So it's on the
cleaned
left
up.
side or the right side?
It's on the right side.
Right
Chris,
side.
you know what I'm
Okay.
talking about?
You know what you're talking about?
Okay, so, people are dumping their grass there now,
All right,
and it's been year after year after year.
all right,
I asked for, a no dumping sign to be put up,
yeah.
there's no dumping sign. But
We can take
it's
care of that.
just, everything else has been cleaned out and the water's flowing so nicely
Yeah.
now. You know, you see the water moving, it'd be great if that could get cleaned out.
Sure, if Chris knows where it is, yeah, we'll
I
obviously
put a
take a
couple
look
of
and take care of
incident
it.
reports in,
Signs,
so-
we need to probably take a look at a lot of areas that had signs, and I'm not sure if they're still there, but, and then we can put our ordinance down there, because if they do get particularly caught dumping grass clippings and tree branches, we're trying to keep the areas nice looking and, you know, doing all the MS4 work. I know Chris has got, a lot of it was done because we had a fairly warm winter, so he's gotta go back and do a lot of maintenance and scraping and pushing, you know, taking care of the landscape more or less, because between rocks and dirt, and now it's, the mud's turned into thick clay, and so he's got maintenance, so he knows it needs to be done, but we'll take a look at
I started
it.
in January
When
when
did you-
they were digging out.
Oh, in January?
I started in January, put one in February, I put probably 3 in so far.
Can you do me a favor, if you wouldn't mind, put another one in?
I'll put one in.
Because
right
it
now.
goes, it's supposed to be emailed to my, to me and the
Yeah, but you weren't
trustees
in office
and
then.
Chris.
You weren't in office then.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, if you could do it, because I wanna see if it's working right, because we made some changes on the website to who receives it, because it used to go basically to the hall, they would print it out and then just put it in a file. And now we're getting it emailed so that we can take faster action on it and make it one of our conversations
I'd
during our
appreciate
Wednesday
it.
meeting.
I think Joe gets them, but she was.
She was,
So,
all right, so we'll do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
One more question.
Sure,
Is it this meeting being recorded?
yes.
yes,
Is it going online?
Yes.
Yes.
Where?
On our, it's, we
I
now
can't-
have
On
a
the
link
website.
from our from YouTube to the website.
Right.
Because last meeting, was
It's
that
on.
put up yet?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Okay,
The
'cause I
planning
looked
board
for it, I
meeting, the
couldn't find
public
it.
hearing,
But I'll look for it, thank
it's
you.
on, they're both on.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions, anybody? Joanne?
No.
Okay, just check. All right, if no other business, Chief, you have anything to throw out there? Okay. Yeah, just maybe one announcement here too. I'm sorry?
I actually did have a question.
Okay.
So the beautification committee was set for residents only. Is there a possibility that it could be extended to the businesses of Washingtonville as well?
Sure.
So-
Business owners?
Business owners, yeah, because
Sure.
it only says residents, so it's kind of discouraging some of the businesses that want to be part of the team.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
So that, if that could be updated on, because I know the due date's the 8th,
Oh, on the graphic.
yes.
Yeah, Donald, yeah.
I can add a note and
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, good point, good point. Speaking of the flowers, I know I see a lot of the plantings going on and on. Are we gonna need assistance if we put anything out on C2I? Anybody, or the businesses, everybody kind of adopting it themselves, or are they gonna put the regular plants in there?
So,
The perennials and annuals?
it's been causing a good buzz and
Yeah,
a
that's
great
good, they
rate.
look real nice.
Thank you, so between myself and my daughter, in between the raindrops, which is fantastic for them,
Right,
but it's just slows down, you know, putting everything in. We have, of the 34 pots, we have, I believe the number count was between 24 and 26 already in place. So all the spring bowls are already in there acclimating. The plan is to get endless hydrangea bloom. I'm working on bare grass. It's been really hard because we started a little later to like hone in, so help for like maybe bare grass would be great, but the plan is to put boxwood, hydrangea, and all of the annuals in, because now I think next week will be our first, we have
warm weather.
no threat of frost, so that's what I was waiting on, the no threat of
Yeah.
frost for annuals.
Okay,
And which is perfect because the spring blooms are, they're still doing their thing, but
yeah,
their time's almost up.
yeah.
So, as far as that, now, it would be nice because now I know that the weather will be stable to possibly have, you know, some type of, I guess, organized group or something where somebody can plant their
Well,
pot.
we'll leave it up, yeah, I mean, if you need an announcement and we need volunteers, and let me know, you know, give us a little bit of time and we'll put an announcement out. And then we can meet downtown, and if the plants are there, we can just have everybody, you know, take what they need for a planter and go out and do it.
Okay,
Because I know Girl Scouts get involved, Boy Scouts can get involved, and if we just give them a little bit of notice, that's all.
so notice what, a week? 2
Oh,
weeks?
I think would be fine,
1 week, okay.
yeah.
And as far as sponsors, of course, we have businesses that are saying they want to sponsor, but they want to own their own pot. Basically, they don't want to share it, so, which is nice. So, which is good, because if there's more pots, maybe if we get enough sponsors, we can extend it. I
Yeah,
don't
get
know.
more pots.
Right.
Yeah, definitely,
Um,
that's good. And we do have some pots coming for our VFW, park,
Yes,
so
we've
we'll
had
get some
jealous.
flowers in there as well. Something maybe we can try to get like red, white, and blue. Memorial Day is coming, so I wanted to mention that as well.
Okay.
We have the parade coming up. Maureen, would you like to?
It's coming along. We have
Do you need
bagpipers this
anything, you know,
year.
I mean, anything you wanna,
Money,
money,
Mhm.
cool.
seed money. Anybody wants to donate? any
How
money?
many participants have responded?
A lot.
Really?
We have a lot more floats.
Good,
This year, we're going to be stopping the parade when NIPAC does their dance. I talked to Chris Martin, I'm meeting with him tomorrow. He's gonna be kind of running the parade. And Al Mann will be the DJ.
right.
We have a couple more floats. The VFW as a whole are the Grand Marshals. And as I said, we're gonna be stopping the parade so NIPAC can do their dance. I guess in previous years, Diane mentioned that people thought the parade was over because they danced for 5 or so minutes. And this year, so we'll stop and maybe have the bagpipers and the school band play so people are entertained, and then continue all together to keep it all in one.
Good.
Are any of the businesses gonna be open that day?
We are.
You are, okay, because I was gonna suggest that maybe we do, you know, people gather earlier, and it would be nice if you guys.
Yeah,
were
last year we
open.
had a ton of people who wanted coffee and like
Right.
croissant in the morning.
Is there any chance we could put some maybe tables out and chairs and stuff?
We have well, they do have a couple of tables and chairs in front of
But
their
if you have a
store.
lot more people, I
There's
don't know, I
one
was
by
just thinking
the,
maybe we could set up.
By Andy's, the hair cutting guy, and we do have a couple of tables over at the little triangle outside the Chinese restaurant.
Maybe get some folding tables and chairs and just put them out for people. It'd be great for you guys, for
Yeah.
business.
Well, the businesses
Yeah, 'cause it'll
definitely, if the businesses know, all the businesses will hands down jump in and
Yeah,
they'll bend the sidewalks easily.
yeah.
It's just knowing, letting everybody know.
I thought it'd be a great idea if all of you were open and, you know, you get people down there that really haven't been down there, but they come to watch the parade. They may not even know some of the businesses are there.
Right.
So,
Like a sidewalk sale or.
Yeah, it looks like a sideway, I was gonna
we
say.
used to do that years ago, have sidewalk sales, which was fun.
Because we really need people walking around the village, that's
Yeah.
the goal.
Oh, I do have one more thing. Speaking of NIPAC, the sign in the parking lot, in the municipal parking lot, there's going to be something terrible happen there in that parking lot one day. The sign that says turn only with the
To the
arrow
right.
is very low. If there's a van parked or a high SUV,
Yeah, can't say it.
you can't see that, and people turn left, they turn right, during drop-off and pickup, it's scary.
It's the Wild West.
No, it's really scary. There has to be some kind of, that sign has to
Chris, you think
be
we could put an extension on the existing?
larger and maybe
post and just
something
raise
on
it
the
up?
laundromat. You know, or, I don't know, something on the, something, because kids are running, mothers are talking.
Yeah.
It's,
We can, there's obviously a post already there, so we can add a post to a post and just elevate it
make it,
above.
yeah, I mean, it is kind of small too.
Yeah, is it?
And we paint the arrows on the ground too.
And I was gonna think of, pinning an arrow on the bottom, on the
I was
ground.
thinking a neon sign.
Do we have anything like that, Chris?
Maybe people would
To
notice.
paint an arrow?
I think there's arrows pointed there on the ground.
There
There are, it's
Actually,
not there.
No, they're not faded. They just don't look.
No,
They just don't look.
yeah. And when you have angled parking, people like to go in the opposite direction.
Sure.
Go figure.
I'm sorry to make more
Okay.
work for you, but I'm so scared.
Anything else, folks?
I know he hates me.
Going once.
His whole number.
Going twice.
Mo, anything else?
He's gonna file on me.
With that, motion to close?
Motion to adjourn.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody, appreciate it.
I'll come down and
Have a good day.
Good.